Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Angela Blair from NTL Trust. We're going to be talking all things citizenship by investment, CBI, and we're happy to have Angela here with us. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me on the show. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and coming on to talk to us about the CBI programs in the Caribbean and around the world.
No problem. And I like how you said you've been starting this podcast since 2014. And that's actually when I left the US. I'm from Massachusetts to start my whole life abroad. So it's really, really meaningful to be here, and I can share the CBI, and especially as an American on the ground in these exciting places that we're going to talk about, my perspective and my experiences.
Yeah, I would love to. I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this industry and what you do today.
Sure. So first, I am the spokeswoman for NTL Trust, who has been in business, especially in the Caribbean, for the last 30 years. Now, for me, I started abroad as a graduate student. And after I finished my studies, I moved to Asia. And I did not know at the time there was this whole entire world or this industry of working abroad unless you were an ambassador or a diplomat or you were an executive at some oil company. So really, this journey started as a student, then as an English teacher, and then eventually with my passion of blogging and vlogging. These are the days before social media, had my blog up. And over the years, I've built a brand called Blair in Belgrade. I'm based in Belgrade, Serbia. And it has taken me to so many wonderful spaces. So last year, I joined the NTL Trust team as their spokeswoman. And myself and the CEO, Nick, we met here in Belgrade. We had some afternoon tea at the St. Regis, which is really a hallmark because I used to organize afternoon tea events. Actually, I'll be having one next month, and bringing a lot of women, expat and local women together. So over the last, 10 plus years, moving around different cities, finding different communities, meeting a lot of different people. And then on top of that, becoming an influencer by accident, I got into this role and now into this world of investment migration, which I did not know, even as an expat, that really existed where you could acquire a second or third citizenship.
Mm-hmm. And Belgrade in the Balkans area has become a bit of a hub.
It certainly has. I did not know that this city, I've been here about 4 years, is such an international hub, very underrated though. There's a lot of work to do in this area, but there's a lot of exciting developments and projects, and there's a small expat but growing community here. So it's great to be here as I continue to meet a lot of different people. And it's not one of the top expat places, but it's growing.
I mean, it comes up quite a bit online, Serbia and
Really?
Montenegro and the countries in there for sure.
I think I played a small role in that because when I came here 4 years ago, I had no idea about this region. And I've been in popular expat hubs like Singapore. I was in Paris before I came here, but the Balkans never crossed my mind.
Yeah, totally. We've had Raphael from Wealthy Expat on the podcast, and he talks about it, and I think a couple other people. So that's great. So now I know when Nick says his Serbia operation, I know who's there.
Yes, myself, and then there are people in the marketing team that are based here.
That's awesome. Okay, so I guess tell us a little bit about what you cover in terms of like RCBI.
Sure. So there's the newest CBI country, São Tomé and Príncipe, which is based in the coast of West Africa. It's a 2-island nation, and they introduced their citizenship by investment program September 2025. In NTL Trust, we were the first on the ground as a licensed marketing agency to talk to people, to see what the country is like. They sent me there when Nicholas introduced me to STP, I was just like, I don't know where that is. I had to look on a map. Very, very new. And for those that don't know, especially if you're coming from Europe, you travel via Lisbon, as São Tomé and Príncipe is a former Portuguese colony. Most people speak Portuguese, some Spanish, French, and English. And people there are friendly and kind. And this is one of the first kind, at least in that region of the world. So I was there for 7 days, and it was a very exciting and very compact trip just to get as much information, meet as many people, see as many things as I can.
Hmm. And NTL Trust is, I understand, licensed for several top CBI programs, including
Yeah.
the Caribbean staples and I believe now Sao Tome. From your perspective, what are some of the biggest differences between Sao Tome and the Caribbean CBI programs?
Okay, so for São Tomé and Príncipe, because it's two islands, the São Tomé, which is the main one that I was on the ground in, and then Príncipe is the northern island where you have a lot of the five-star luxury resorts and holidays. The main difference is it really depends on the lifestyle that you're looking to live. In the Caribbean, you have programs like St. Kitts that's been there since the 80s, the first one in the world, much more developed. You have a lot of Americans there, British people there, a lot of other Europeans there, a lot of people from the region of the world that have a different agenda or different goals when it comes to acquiring a citizenship by investment program. With Sao Tome and Principe, many of the foreigners that I've met are Portuguese or Italians, travelers. Yes, you have some Americans here and there. So it really is a very, very new program. But it was really exciting to be on the ground, talk to the people, see what businesses are there, talk to bankers, I talked to lawyers, I talked to real estate developers. I went to different farms, like coffee. They have organic coffee fields versus in the Caribbean, you have 5 CBI programs. I was in Antigua Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Dominica. And all of the islands offer something different. So it really depends what you're looking for.
Hmm. And Sao Tome obviously just launched recently, 2025, and it's
Yeah.
now one of the most accessible entry points in the CBI world. Minimum non-refundable contribution of around 90K for a single applicant.
Yes, 90K for a single applicant, completely remote. And it's very easy to set up a bank account, whether it's for an enterprise or for an individual. Also, if you have a family of 4, the price is about 105,000 US dollars. So I think it's the cheapest, I don't like the word cheap, but the most accessible CBI program in the world at this point.
Hmm. And the processing time is impressively quick as well, from what I understand, where it would actually be faster than the Caribbean.
Yes, it's about 2.5 months. And a few weeks ago, they actually just rewarded their first South Tomean citizen. So it's efficient, it's fast. Again, everything remote, and that's I think the goal of to attract people that want an efficient and quick, but of course due diligence isn't done, second or third citizenship.
Hmm. Could you walk us through the typical application process a little bit? The steps involved to getting the passport in hand.
Sure. So first you contact a licensed marketing agency like NTL Trust via email or WhatsApp, and we have a team of lawyers. We send you the brochure of everything you need to know when it comes to your paperwork, to proof of income. And also, Sao Tome and Principe is Bitcoin friendly. And you have to have your passport. And actually, interestingly, they accept people from all around the world except North Korea. So if you are a Russian citizen, if you are, which currently on the market are having a hard time to find a place, Sao Tome and Principe is a great option. Just like any other citizenship by investment program, you have to have all the paperwork and you have a licensed agency and a lawyer to help you pass in all your papers. So we have on
Hmm.
our website And of course, you can email us for a more detailed um, outline of how to file for a CBI of São Tomé and Príncipe.
Definitely. So, talking about family inclusion, which is big for a lot of people, seems pretty generous in Sao Tome for, say, dependent children. And I even saw uh, this something just this week from who did I see it from? I think from Ladislas, the Wandering Investor, where he said that Sao Tome is now going to allow like a non-married spouse via you can prove it through cohabitation, which is also pretty pretty generous.
Well, that's very, very new because we do have, well, I can't talk about clients' business. People have inquired that if they have not a legal spouse, but a partner that
Hmm.
they've been living with, they have the documents to prove, and maybe have children with or not have children with, there is a way to include them in the application process. But it really
Yeah, this is
depends.
brand new, so we can look into it for any client that really wants to know, of
Yeah,
course. But
send us an email.
I thought that was
Yeah.
actually a pretty big deal because I'm not sure how that works in the Caribbean.
With Sao Tome and Principe, I think they really want to distinguish themselves, and given how the world is today, what defines a family is not just stringent between husband and wife or just children or grandparents. So if you have a way legally on paper that you are in a relationship, again, email our legal team just for more specific details. There is a way. When there's a will, there's a way.
Totally. I don't know if you have any good stories you could share about how getting a CBI passport has affected someone's life for the better, improve their mobility or outcomes for their family. Do you have any examples like that?
Okay, let me think because I did talk to different people who went through the CBI route in the Caribbean as far as Sao Tome and Principe because I do have stories from there. Um, for Sao Tome and Principe, I've met many people that are local that are happy that they want more foreigners to come, bring their families, start a business, not just come just for holiday and leave. And there was this South Tomaine who was a professional coach of soccer. She actually spent her time living in New York, and now she has a tiki hut near this ocean front that's called the Seven Sisters Seas. And she was talking how she meets many tourists from all over the world, and with this program, it brings an opportunity for people that really love the country, who really want to stay and establish themselves there, that option. So I think today people really want options, and I think it's important if with these CBI programs that locals feel included and see like if you're going to welcome people like to live here to have a citizenship that people actually want foreigners to become citizens. So I think it makes a big difference with her story or for other locals that I met who shared that they're very excited for this. They want more people to come to start businesses, to live here, raise their families. As far as people that went through the CBI route, when I was in Antigua, I met this lawyer who married a Antiguan, but she is from another island. And I guess not only just for legal reasons, but she went through that CBI route that made it much easier for her to set up her practice. So, and she has her practice, she has her husband, she has her family. So, even within the Caribbean, if you're from a different island, there are benefits to acquiring citizenship.
Hmm. Are you referring to the settlement that the Caribbean islands have with each other?
When you say settlement like CARICOM, because I know some Caribbean islands
Hmm.
are part of CARICOM, some are not. I don't think the island that she was from was part of CARICOM, so that was an easier pathway for her to go to. Um, There are some Europeans that I did met that went, they didn't have CBI, but they like bought property and they're running their business and they're like, well, we don't necessarily need to go that route, but if we want to one day, it's, and they've been there for maybe 10 or 20 years, they're like, yeah, that's a good option. So
I have it in my notes to maybe ask you about property tours in the Caribbean. Is that something that you've worked on?
I went on a lot of property tours. Let's just say that I met with a lot of the top property developers. For example, when I was in St. Lucia, there's this American Turkish company that is building the largest, I think, on 75 acres of land, development of luxury condos, a whole entire mall. They're building a medical facility. The Turks are very well known for hair transplants, cosmetics, and I sat down with the owner. We drove around the construction site, and I believe in April, that's where they're opening phase one. And I used to live in Istanbul myself, so I'm used to seeing, especially a lot of foreigners come with, and the men have their wraps on their head, and I'm like, this is going to be big competition if you're going to sway a lot of Americans or those that are in the Western Hemisphere to go to St. Lucia versus flying to Istanbul. So that was a very, very exciting trip to be on the ground and see such a huge property investment, one of the biggest in the Caribbean, to be being built in St. Lucia.
Wow. Tell me more. Tell me more about like how these property tours work.
Okay, so with NTL Trust, we have a lot of partnerships with different properties that have the CBI approved. So when I was, for example, in Antigua, I stayed at Hodges Bay, West Indies, in a beautiful villa, and probably one of the most beautiful places I've been to, and I've been to a lot. And on these property tours, as a spokeswoman, I captured a lot of content, seeing the different villas, seeing different apartments, seeing different rooms, and meeting with the property developers or meeting with the staff to get more details about what it's like to acquire this property. Do people buy it outright? For example, I know in St. Lucia, you either have the government donation, you can also buy bonds, or you can get the citizenship by buying a property. Versus in Antigua and Barbuda, there's the option of the donation and buying the property. And I believe there's the educational point, just like Grenada. I went to the St. George's University. I did that school tour. St. George's Medical School is very well known for educating many American doctors. So when I was there, I met many American and Canadian students, and I toured the campus. So for people that have children, for families that want to send their children to St. George's University, there is that benefit if your child goes there to not only just get citizenship, but a discount on the education. Because as an American, we know med school or veterinarian school is very, very expensive. So there was a lot of tours, there was a lot of questions asked, and on NTL Trust website, in our YouTube channel, NTL Trust 1994, you can see some of the highlights of the tours. And we're rolling out a lot of content, a lot.
Mm. So is there one island that you focus on more, or is more popular for the tours, or is it a couple? Or like, just I have to ask because there's 5 CBI islands, and I think they all have property options.
All of them have property options, and I was there in the Caribbean for 5.5 weeks, right? So there is, for example, in Antigua and Barbuda, I stayed at Hodges Bay, West Indies. I went to Tamarind Hills and did property tours. Then I went to Passion Village, and these Italians, there's a lot of Italians apparently in Antigua, and I stayed at their place called Passion Village. So that was just Antigua itself. Grenada, that highlight was the Silver Sands Hotel, which actually has the longest infinity pool in the Caribbean. It's the size of 2 Olympic-sized pools. They have another property, Silver Sands, the Silver Sands Beach, and then, of course, St. George's University. When I was in Dominica, which is known as the Nature Island, there was 3 properties I saw. There was the Secret Bay and the Jungle Bay Resort, and I stayed in this beautiful bungalow. And on that resort specifically, you have a lot of yogis and yoga resorts, and people go there for healing. So we can have a whole different conversation about the properties because each island offers something different when it comes to lifestyle, comes to price point. If you want to really be in nature, if you want something more commercial, if you want something that's more friendly, the islands, you have a variety of options.
Okay. And which ones are you most excited about right now?
Well, for me, I'm single and I'm child free. So if I were to have to choose a place, I would say Dominica, because that really changed my life, staying at the Jungle Bay Resort. Because not only Dominica is just nature and wellness, uh, but also it's easy to get around. The people and the food is so great. And I could see myself going there like once a year. So these days, what people, especially that, technically has it all, everyone wants to have a regulated nervous system. Many people want to escape and heal. And I would have to say Dominica, that was probably the best place for escaping and healing. I went hiking with the owner. I had a sit down YouTube talk with the owner. I met many people from Switzerland, from Germany, from the US and Canada. That specific resort is really for healing and wellness. That's all the rave for today.
Hmm. And zooming out, the idea here is that the CBI investor has a couple options. They can make a donation, or they could potentially invest in real estate in one of these projects. Do you know what are you seeing in terms of the split percentage people that choose the different options?
Well, at NTL Trust, especially post pandemic, I talked with the Sotheby's office in St. Kitts and Nevis, and they said that they're seeing a lot of Americans, a lot, buying for property. People really want options. Even if you have a lot of money, it's just like, well, I want the options, a place to escape. And given the current environment, I think many people are going through that route. Post pandemic, pre pandemic, many people were doing the government donations. And then it was not as many as Americans. Now it's like 80% Americans property rent.
Really? Wow. Yeah, this has been a big talking point about how Americans are have quickly become the biggest consumer of RCBI products almost out of nowhere.
I want to say out of nowhere, I think this is something, given current events, given how the world is shifting today, people really, the American passport is not the most powerful passport. I don't think it has been in the top three in a decade. You have Singapore, you have the UAE, you have Switzerland, those, and Japan, those are very strong passports. We as Americans, yes, we can go many places, but the option to legally, own a property, to open a bank account, to send your children to school and not have to play the whole visa game. I think many Americans, whatever their stand politically, want options. And we're very big on the American dream and owning a home. So they're just taking that route of owning property and having your freedom in different places.
Hmm. And I think the property option is probably going to get more popular as well, because I think there's a couple of reasons, but there's talk in the Caribbean of implementing a 30-day minimum stay rule. I'm not sure what the latest is on that, but that might sort of tip the scale to make getting property more attractive.
The landscape and the rules is ever changing. So one day we can say you have these rules, the next week it can change. So for right now, I know traditionally it was that you don't even have to go to the island if you were applying for the CBI. And I think depending on where you go, they want to see people that are invested, spend some time. When I was in Dominica doing a property tour of the Intercontinental, their property route is to be a shareholder. And as a shareholder, you have at least 7 days of the whole year to spend some time at the Intercontinental. So not everything is about buying and owning the property. Just like the Marriott, also stayed at the Marriott in St. Kitts. They also have that shareholder option. So if you don't want to have the headache, because some people, I've talked to a lot of people like, I don't want to have the headache of not only just buying a property then renting it out. I'd rather, own a piece of it and then maybe spend a couple of days and just have the company manage it for me. There's that route. So for those that are going that route of you have to spend 30 days there, that they have an alternative where you have the option to own a piece of, something bigger, a bigger property.
Okay, this is good intel. And I guess at a high level regarding the property options here or structuring the deal, could you give people an idea of maybe what they should know going into a property shopping experience in the Caribbean?
That's a really big question because it really depends on which island. It depends also on the stage of life. When I was in St. Kitts, I went to Nevis, so there's like a small water boat you can take to the other side of the island. Really beautiful. I went off from the Park Hyatt that also has Park Hyatt St. Kitts that also is have their own citizenship by investment program, but they outsource that to a management company. It takes like an 8-minute water boat to get to the other side. And the Four Seasons in Nevis, they also have their own CBI program. So they have many acres of land, and they have some properties on the property where you can buy. And many people that choose Nevis are those that are retiring or they have their families and, there's international schools. I met this, American family that their children commute by boat to get to the other side of the island. So it really depends really on your lifestyle, your stage of life, what you're looking for, also what your budget is. When I was talking to the Sotheby's people, they said there are a lot of Americans that are looking at $1 million+ homes and up. But there are properties in other markets, for example, in Grenada, where if you have $200,000 or $250,000 or $300,000 and you want to have a rental property, you have that option. St. George's University, for example, right across the street, it's Hideaway. They have properties where their students are renting to live off campus. And that is for people that say, hey, I want to spend $250,000 to just buy this small apartment for students. And there's like a waiting list because it's really hot commodity. You have nice rental income. Or I toured this property in St. Kitts, right near Christophe Harbor, $5 million home. Beautiful, very private. So it really depends. Budget, lifestyle, and stage of life.
That's cool. I think the real estate option is really attractive. To give people an idea, like are which islands are more? How would you characterize their approaches to the real estate investment? Are some islands like really strict about it being a government approved project, and there's limited supply? Or are other ones, are there any islands where you can build a massive single family home like that?
That's a really good question. I think there is flexibility depending on your budget. And I know, for example, in St. Kitts and Nevis, when I was doing a property tour in Nevis, the agent said that some properties are not CBI, but they can become CBI. That is a process. So there's also, if you want to sell a property, because if you go that route, you have to keep that property for 5 years before you can resell it. So some people can buy a resale of a citizenship by investment approved property. So you don't have to just buy something. Or like you asked, if you want to build from scratch your home, I'm trying to think.
Asking, just to
No,
just
that's
to
a
see
really good question. Because when I was in St. Lucia and I met with one of the advisors for urban planning, and he was the one that approved, or his office is the one that approved any properties, just like the developer that spent about like €1 billion to build this amazing development. It's called Alia. I'm sure like to buy the land or even to lease the land, there is an option It's just you have to go through the proper channels, get the improvement, the permits, the license, everything, all the due diligence before if you want to buy a piece of land. So there is options. Just you have to have the budget and go through the proper channels.
Mm-hmm. How's the interaction with is there a real estate agent there's notaries and lawyers on the like how does that interaction work with
Okay.
with the CBI side?
The CBI side. So with NTL Trust, as a licensed marketing agency, we do have partnerships in all the islands with different real estate agencies. So we work with the Sotheby's in St. Kitts and Nevis. And not only that, we have lawyers on the ground in all these islands. All these property tours that I went, we have trusted partnerships with them. So for clients that say they want to work with us and they want to say, hey, I want to buy a property in Dominica, we have people in Dominica, the ones I've met with, that says, okay, this is the process, this is what's available, and we work with you from day one till finish. Because especially if you're going through the property route, it can take 6 months or more from start to finish. And then if you're going to build from scratch, that can take time. But we are here. We have a very wide network of lawyers, advisors, accountants. Even when I was in São Tomé and Príncipe, I through one of the real estate agents, he owns this tourism company, and I toured this 1.5 million euro house. The only reason I was able to tour it because it's his brother-in-law's house, and they were thinking, hey, this is interesting. If we want to sell, we'll put this in the market. So we talk to a lot of people. We build the right relationship. So even if you don't might see it online, we can say, hey, give us some time. We can look in our network and we'll find the right architect, interior designer, real estate agent, lawyer to help you get what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something really attractive about the Caribbean options. I believe Sao Tome doesn't have a real estate option. It's just a pure donation play at this point in time.
At this point, but me on the ground and meeting the right people.
Ooh.
If you want to buy land, I mean, it might be small, but since it was a former Portuguese colony, you have a lot of houses that need to be renovated. They do have land where you can build from scratch. I toured many different neighborhoods. It's just about who do you know, and from there,
yeah, totally.
Say, hey, I want to build this, and I can maybe go through this route. What do I do? How can I do it?
So NTL must have been one of the first firms, boots on the ground.
We were
in
Sao
Tome.
First and only. No one else has been to São Tomé and Príncipe except us.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So the program officially launched early September 2025. And I was there on the ground like a week later when it literally just launched. And I flew from Belgrade to London, because then from London to Portugal. Actually, no, I went from Belgrade. No, it's two different trips. I'm mixing up. So I went from Belgrade to Portugal, and then from Portugal to São Tomé and Príncipe, because those two trips were kind of back to back. After São Tomé and Príncipe, I was here, and then went from Belgrade to London to Gatwick, and then Gatwick all the way to. So it was a big haze. But yes, we were the first and only on the ground. I've met everyone that I need to meet. Still in touch with, the lawyers, with the real estate agents, tour guides, bankers. I met actually this bank that's been operating for 2 years, owned and started by a Ghanaian entrepreneur. And we do have some interviews that will come up on our channel about opening a bank account. Because even myself as a foreigner is just like, how do you open a bank account? Every country is different. Some are just, you have to already have all your visa and paperwork before you can walk in there, versus they are very tech savvy. I'm sure I can open a bank account if I want. What is it like to get a tax ID? Again, it's about professional relationships you have. And you can't just find everything online. Like, for example, in Grenada, I have to say it's probably like the most high-tech CBI program. They have an AI agent on their website. I met the deputy manager for the CBI for Grenada. They're very advanced. STP, they're in their early days. They do have the website, but you have to, and you have us as a marketing agency. But when it comes to looking for specific information, at this point, we are probably the best. The best.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think this Sao Tome program is really interesting. Like to the way that it's part of the CPLP community, the Portuguese language countries.
Yes.
I think it's going to be increasingly popular in the future, and there's already a lot of good benefits to it. To having a passport kind of in this block of countries. So to any family that 100K isn't too big a deal, I think it's a pretty good no brainer. And I don't see any reason you couldn't get both something in the Caribbean and something in Sao Tome, because the Caribbean, you're kind of getting like a Commonwealth country, and this one you're getting a Portuguese country. So I think they do complement each other as well.
Yes, and one small benefit, unofficially, because São Tomé and Príncipe is part of the Commonwealth as a former Portuguese colony, clients or citizens, maybe I think 5 or 7 years from now, have the option to apply for a Portuguese citizen. So if long term your goal is to eventually get into an EU or hold a Portuguese passport, this could be, again, playing the long game, an opportunity for you to apply for a Portuguese passport.
Did you notice any sort of vestiges of Portugal, or when you were down there in Sao Tome? Did you what did you kind of notice about the place?
Well, first, it is just absolutely beautiful, and I know you can say every island is beautiful, but no, it's like this untouched paradise. The food is all fresh. There's a lot of fresh fish, a lot of fresh vegetables. Everything is fresh. Okay, so you're going to be healthy eating fresh food. The air, just the natural breeze, you could just inhale a different quality of air just being there. People are incredibly kind and incredibly ambitious and smart. Many of the professionals, young and mature professionals I've met, studied in Portugal, studied in the UK, have relationships, beyond São Tomé and Príncipe. It's not some isolated island. So many people that are global and savvy. And I would have to say, you definitely can live a very comfortable life in terms of having extra help. So I had a driver, I had a cook, I had a cleaner, so I could just solely focus on business. And I was just like, I can get used to this. Many of the middle-class Sao Tomeans people I've met, they're like, yes, we have 4 or 5 people as staff in our home. This is very usual. No one's expected to cook, clean, mind the children, and drive. So if you want a gardener, you want a security guard, you want tutors for your children, you want cleaners, you want, you can have it. I know it's not really popular to say, and I got in trouble when I shared this on my TikTok channel, because it's just not the case in Europe unless you're fabulously wealthy to have a staff to help you, manage your home. But there, it's like the standard. So you're creating jobs. If you're a family of 4 and you have this beautiful home, you're not going to be, especially as a mom or a wife, overwhelmed managing your home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's an underrated country. I really like these islands like Madeira, Canary Islands, Azores, Cabo Verde, Sao Tome. I think I think it's a really interesting positioning, with Africa and being on the Atlantic and everything. So I think it's a really interesting option that people should be pursuing. For people just starting their CBI research, what's your top piece of advice? How should they think about and prioritize factors like the cost, speed, passport power, reliability, when comparing options?
When comparing options, I have to say, what are your goals and what type of lifestyle do you want to live? Because from what I understand, many people that have these extra passports, they'll never go to the countries, or if they do, they're not going to live there full time. But in this ever changing global landscape, anything can happen. So if you say, oh gosh, I want to pick up my family and leave, where do I go? It's going to be very different than someone that is retired. It's going to be very different than someone that is single. It's going to be very different than someone that maybe has a pet. We didn't talk about pets when it comes to, because I think in Europe, if you're going to bring your pet has to have its own passport. I know that when I was in Singapore, to even import a dog or a cat, it's a very rigorous process. So it really depends, what is your family size and what is the lifestyle you want to live. And that, of course, will affect the costs.
Yes, family size is definitely huge. Passport, portfolio, asset protection, so many things. So before we get to wrapping up, I guess, what are you most excited about? Is it Serbia, Sao Tome, or the Caribbean? What's your big pick for the second half of 26?
I think Sao Tome. That is very, very exciting because they're the only, I think, CBI program where everyone, literally, except North Koreans, are welcome. The Caribbean has banished the Russians and a few other nationalities. And how fast this program is to process, that's, 2.5 months, average. That's very exciting. And for people that do want a lifestyle to be in paradise, whether they spend a week, 3 months, you have this small, tiny island, 2-island nation, out in the ocean. So if you want to bring your boat and have all this room to sail. And also, if you're an entrepreneur, we didn't talk about that. Sao Tome and Príncipe is very open to, it's easy to set up a company. It's good for agriculture, for fishing, for energy, manufacturing, coffee. Who doesn't like coffee? You can literally grow and export organic coffee beans. If you love chocolate, that's where a lot of the cacao nuts, are coming from. So that is probably the most exciting. Because you don't have neighbors like the U.S. that pressures, the U.S. does have a lot of pressures and influence in the Caribbean. So if you want a passport or a country where you don't have very nosy and high demanding neighbors, São Tomé and Príncipe is your best bet.
That definitely makes sense. Yeah, I saw some videos where they went to a chocolate store in Sao Tome and they just bought all the different types, and apparently is quite famous for the coffee. So, or the chocolate, I meant to say. So, and pretty easy to get to. The direct flight from Lisbon,
yes,
is pretty good.
It is. It's like I spent a day and I had afternoon tea at the Four Seasons, and then from that evening I caught my flight to Sao Tome and landed there at 7 a.m. So if you want to do a day in Lisbon and then fly with your family or yourself before you go to São Tomé and Príncipe, definitely possible. And you have the Northern Island, Príncipe. You have these luxury resorts. And my driver took me all the way to the south of the island. And São Tomé sits, not too far from the equator. And they have a smaller island that literally sits right on the equator. So it's paradise, especially if you're the type to drive and want to do some road trips and see a lot of nature. We saw a dormant volcano and eat a lot of fresh and yummy and healthy food. That's really paradise.
Amazing. And I think people can even get the passport in Dubai or something. They can go to one of the CIUs too.
Yeah, so the Citizenship Investment Unit for São Tomé and Príncipe is located in Dubai.
Mm-hmm. So I guess tropical adventure optional.
Yeah, but again, the whole entire process is remote. So you send us an email, info@ntltrust.com, and our team will reply within 24 hours. And we definitely coordinate everything with the office in Dubai. So you don't have to physically go to the office. Send us an email, follow us on our YouTube channel, follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram. So very easy.
Amazing. Yes. So as we get to wrapping up, any final message that you'd like to share with the audience where they can find you? We'll put a link in the description to whatever you prefer, LinkedIn, website, whatever works. But where's the best place to go?
So my final message from NTL Trust, we believe in opportunity and freedom. And I know those are very just big, vague words, but more than ever, if you're part of the Western world, having an extra citizenship is no longer just a luxury. I think it's a necessity at this point. You don't want to be trapped by, your home country that doesn't allow you to live the best quality of life for yourself and for your family. So if you want to tap into exploring how you can live a more global lifestyle and have options, you can find us on our website, ntltrust.com. Send us an email to info@ntltrust.com. And everything's NTL Trust, from LinkedIn to Instagram to our YouTube. And we have a Substack newsletter, so you can join that as well. So if you value freedom, definitely get started. This year is the perfect time to get started with exploring a CBI with us.
Amazing. So this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. And for everybody listening to this, whether you're on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to this, please follow the podcast. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Angela. You won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now. We will see you in the next episode.